It was a wild night at Amalie Arena as Tampa Bay Lightning rattled off 8 goals, tying their season high for goals in a game and goals in an individual period in their largest win of the season. How does this set them up for an upcoming road trip that lasts over a week on the West Coast?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber here, welcoming all of you into Locked On Lightning and thanking you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel because you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we will get started by breaking down the Lightning's biggest win of the season, their largest goal differential of the year, tying their mark of most goals with 8 for the third time this season. They did it once against the Avalanche at home, which was also the last time that they scored 5 goals in a period. Brayden Point was a big part in both of those games, handing out 4 assists in the 8-2 win over the Avalanche and getting 2 goals in the opening period for the Lightning. The third fastest successive goals in Lightning history as Hagel scored his first and second goal 23 seconds apart. And Brayden Hagel now 3 points behind Nikita Kucherov for the team lead. And one of the newest members of Team Canada was certainly dominant against the Sharks last night. And John Cooper, as well as the rest of the Lightning, were kind of surprising in the way they talked about it after the game. Very humble, which is not the surprising part. What was surprising is they said that the Lightning just got a lot of breaks in that game against San Jose.
Everything was going in for us, and either our goalie was making a nice save, or it was hitting a stick, or it was getting deflected wide. And so I bet you scoring chances were fairly close after 2 periods, but the score wasn't. It was just one of those nights.
And just one of those nights indeed. A game that was relatively even in terms of scoring chances in no way, honestly. I think Cooper might be a little bit too humble here. The Lightning had 35 shots on net to San Jose's 21, but one thing he was right about, though, is that the score was not indicative of the game itself. I think the Sharks played pretty well, just the deflections went the Lightning's way, and you're in a goaltender battle between a less experienced goalie like the Sharks had in Vanacek against Andrei Vasilevskiy. And that battle is not going to be lost by Vasilevskiy probably ever. I mean, he's just that good of a goalie. And any of those shots that are, kind of borderline, maybe just needing the right deflection or something, are going to be saved. And Vasilevskiy had key saves early on. There was one in the first period right after the Lightning got themselves on the score sheet, especially, that I think really just set the tone. I mean, the Sharks were getting good shots on net. 21 is not a small amount of shots in a game. That's a pretty solid number to have for the most part, but it was just Vasilevskiy stonewalling them. And, there might have been some deflections that went the Lightning's way, but that's because the Lightning players put themselves in a good position. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I know the game better of hockey better than John Cooper, because I don't. But I think he might be being a little too humble about this win. And part of it might be the fact that, this is a home win that, frankly, the Lightning were expected to win. Even without Nikita Kucherov, on paper, the Lightning should beat the Sharks both times they play San Jose this year. The game of hockey is sometimes cruel, sometimes humbling, as John Cooper mentioned after the game. It certainly was that for the San Jose Sharks. And one thing I also noticed was this was a battle of the rookies, and it was something that I was really excited to see. It was my first chance seeing Macklin Celebrini, the Calder Trophy favorite, and Celebrini was held to a -3. And despite being on the ice for about 15 minutes, he had 4 shots, and that was it. 2 giveaways. He won about half his faceoffs, but was largely taken out of the game. Connor Geekie was instrumental in building the Lightning's lead, getting the assist on the opening goal, and not too long after that, scoring one of his own, his 4th of the season, that put the Lightning up 2-0 early in the first period. And it was just a dominant showing from Tampa Bay from the get-go. Those are the kind of games that I think the Lightning do best in, when the offense is just dominating right out of the gate. And the Lightning did that. You know, they were aggressive. They went right to the net early on. And it was an interesting move by John Cooper to start the Lightning's 4th liners. I liked it because Asimon, especially Glendening as well. I mean, Gonzalez, the entire 4th line for the Lightning has really done better in the last couple of weeks after being pretty quiet for the first couple of games. But I mean, they really set the tone. Glendening was blocking shots left and right on defense, and the Lightning were just attacking the net. And that's one of the reasons they dominated shots-wise, and one of the reasons they were so successful in the game. The more the Lightning attack the net, the more the Lightning can get the ball into dangerous areas, or the puck, excuse me, the better that they can do. And having, though, the 3rd and the 4th lines start off early really paid off handsomely. This was Cam Atkinson's best game as a Lightning player. Connor Geekie, certainly one of his better performances as well. And it's honestly what you need, especially at this point of the season with the Tampa Bay Lightning. For most of the year, when everyone's healthy, yeah, there might be some games where a first line of Nikita Kucherov, Brayden Point, and Jake Gensel can carry you. They are 3 of the best forwards in the world. If you break down, left wing, right wing, center, they are 3 of the best players at their position in the world. Any way you slice it, those are 3 elite guys on probably the best first line in hockey. A fully healthy Lightning first line can carry you to some games, but everyone still has to do their part. And that was absolutely the case. There was a goal scored from every Lightning line, including one from Nick Paul, which for me was the best moment of the game. Paul had missed more time due to injury than any other Lightning player so far this season. And in his first game back, he gets a goal. Yeah, it was late in the game. It was quite literally the last goal scored, but it answered an earlier goal from the San Jose Sharks that happened 14 seconds into the 3rd period. It was just one of those goals where the Lightning put their stamp on the game, and to have it come from Nick Paul, a guy who has been so good, and honestly, I believe would have been in contention for a spot on Team Canada had he stayed healthy. But just having him do that as soon as he came back from injury, while Mitchell Chaffee's out, while Nikita Kucherov is out, Kucherov especially, those are key players on the Lightning team, and the entire team stepped up. And that is why the Lightning won. This was their most complete game of the season. There was never a moment where they let their foot off the gas. There was never a moment where it looked like the Sharks were going to snatch a comeback, or the Lightning were going to, play themselves out of a win or something bad. It was just a game that was dominated from start to finish by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Cam Atkinson scored the first goal on a nifty little tip in 1 minute and 25 seconds in. And it seemed evident at that point that this was going to be a game dominated by the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that's what good teams need to do. If you can beat a team on paper, you should beat them when it comes to the actual game, especially when that game is on home ice and the Lightning are playing in front of one of the best atmospheres in all of hockey. Regardless of who's injured, this was a game the Lightning should have won, and they did in sound fashion. And I think, honestly, it's exactly what they need to start the road trip. You've got some tough games against some tough West Coast opponents on a trip where the team is going to spend over a week away from Tampa Bay. The next home game for the Lightning is not until Tuesday the 17th. Over a week out. The Lightning will have already played 2 games by the time it's officially a week out of that. So great start. Great kind of little end to the homestand. Great start to the month. And hopefully the momentum can carry over into that road trip. And we're going to talk a bit more about the road trip later. But first, we're going to talk Brayden Point. Completed his 600th career game and rode a game high in points with 4 assists, which is a season high for him as well. We're going to talk about how great Brayden Point stacks up with some other Lightning greats through his first 600 career games and counting. Get ready to tackle the NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back here on Locked On Lightning, and we're going to talk about Brayden Point. 4 assists for Pointer, and doing it really in his quiet fashion. What is especially amazing is he came into the game with 16 goals and 5 assists. So Point almost got his entire season assist total in one night on his 600th game, and that is a feat not easily accomplished in the NHL, particularly for just one team and at the same high level that Brayden Point is playing at. He is certainly someone that I think is going to threaten some Lightning records. I think Nikita Kucherov is still going to end his career with probably most of the Lightning's offensive records, but Brayden Point at 28 years old, he's already one of the best players in the NHL. And I think that was made especially clear back in June when he was named one of the first 6 players to Canada's Four Nations face-off team. And you think of not only just some of the talent that's come out of Canada, but some of the other current Canadian players that he beat out for that honor, regardless of whether or not they mentioned or they ended up getting selected. But, you know, he's up there with guys like Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon and some of the best offensive players in the NHL. And that's something that is absolutely a category that I think you need to put Brayden Point in. Scoring wise, he can score better than most players in the league. He is automatic from in close, and he's just been such a huge asset to the Lightning team. And in his 600th career game, seeing him get those 4 assists when with him, it would be more typical to have a 4-goal game or something like that. Doing it all with his passing is a good sight to see. But, you know, regardless of everything that's been going on with the Four Nations tournament looming, Brayden Point is staying humble and staying focused on his goals with the Tampa Bay Lightning right now, as happy as he is for some of his new teammates.
Oh, I'm not sure. You know, I think that's in the future. You know, it's obviously great to see Eggs and Tony on the team. They definitely deserve it. They've played extremely well this season. But I think, you know, our focus right now is just with the Lightning and you know, taking care of our business.
And again, just the humility that Brayden Point shows. He could easily have said, yeah, you know, the Four Nations fired all of us up, you know. All of the new additions to the Four Nations came up with at least 1 goal tonight. Cirelli got one. Actually, it was in succession. Hagel, Gensel, and Cirelli all got goals at the end of the first and beginning of the second period. Brayden Point got on the board with his 4 assists. Victor Hedman had a dish as well. So all the Lightning Four Nations guys got on it, and Brayden Point absolutely had the right to go up and down talking about, how great this line could be for Team Canada, how excited he was seeing his teammates get on Team Canada with him to become his teammates for both club and country. And he could have gone on a whole rant about that, but instead he just kept it real and talked about the game, the team, and the fact that the Lightning are focusing on doing one thing, and that is winning games. The Four Nation is something looming. I think that's a great way to look at it. It's a huge honor. I don't think that's lost on him. It's something that he mentioned in the Wednesday practice before the final rosters were announced for the Four Nations face-off. It's not like Point doesn't understand the honor that it is to play for his country in a tournament like this, but he knows that he's got to focus on the NHL. And I think that he certainly has some Lightning records that are going to be within scoring, that are going to be within reach by the end of his career. 28 years old. He's played for the Lightning his entire NHL career. And he's just not, one of those high profile guys that might want to go take a contract somewhere, go take a huge contract somewhere else. And I'm sure when Brayden Point hits free agency, he's going to get some big offers. But I mean, I could easily see him just staying with the Lightning, continuing this success with this team that he has been such a big part of. Point came to the NHL in 2016. Within a couple of seasons, within his first 5 years in the NHL, he had won 2 Stanley Cups already. And he was a big part of those Stanley Cups teams. All-star seasons. Among the Lightning leaders in scoring and points. I mean, this is something that has consistently been a part of the Brayden Point experience over the last couple of seasons. He has just been such a solid producer. And, his main objective is certainly scoring goals. So he can still pass the puck. He can still get his assists. He can still create scoring chances without necessarily having to put the puck in the net. And he's done that effectively in 600 games. In his now 600 games played, Brayden Point has 578 points. He's 2 assists away from 300. That's something I expect he'll pick up on the road, his 300th career assist. He's 20 goals away from 300 in his career as well, averaging just under a point a game in his first 9 seasons in the NHL, all with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And just to have that kind of level of production with a plus 64, by the way, over his career, playing around 20 minutes of a game on the ice, he's a force to be reckoned with on the offensive side. That is no doubt. But he might be a guy who could have his number 21 up in the rafters one day. And speaking of which, a congratulations to the 2 new members of the Tampa Bay Lightning Hall of Fame. Brian Bradley, the first Lightning All-Star, and Rick Peckham, one of the longest tenured broadcasters in Tampa Bay Lightning history. No big surprises there. Rick Peckham has a couple of broadcast booths named after him in the Lightning press box. And, of course, Brian Bradley, beloved fan favorite, and now his name is added to the list of Lightning franchise legends. So congrats to Brian and Rick, and also congrats to Brayden Point on what ended up being a big milestone night for all 3 of them. 2 new Hall of Famers named, and Brayden Point continuing to inscribe his name in the Lightning history books, where I believe he will go down as one of the best offensive players to ever play for the Tampa Bay Lightning when it's all said and done, hopefully many years from now, because Point continues to be a key player in the Lightning season, and it'll be certainly key when the Lightning go on the road. 4 games on the road. They'll leave within the next couple of days. Lightning are off today. They play Vancouver on Sunday. So we'll have the recap of that game on the Monday show, but let's give you a preview for the Lightning as they start their longest road trip of the season thus far. Welcome back into Locked On Lightning as the Tampa Bay Lightning get ready to hit the road. Vancouver is the start of their road trip. They stay in Canada for the first half of the week with a night game against Edmonton on Tuesday, then another one on Thursday in Calgary before coming back home after a late Saturday game in Seattle against the Kraken. The Lightning then get a couple days off before 3 home games between the 17th against the Blue Jackets and the home against the Panthers on the couple days before Christmas. They also got a game against the Blues fit in there, but we're going to focus on this West Coast trip with the Vancouver Canucks. The Lightning and the Canucks have not played each other since October 15th. It was one of the first home games of the season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They won 4-1 over the Vancouver Canucks. The Lightning in that game got a goal and an assist from Brayden Point, as well as Brandon Hagel and Anthony Cirelli. Nikita Kucherov chipped in a goal with assists coming from Jake Gensel and 2 from Nick Paul. This is a game where it was even in shots on goal. Vancouver got their only goal on the power play, and despite the fact that the Canucks put the Lightning on 5 power plays, the Lightning did not score a goal, and that is where this game could break open even more. Vancouver is still a good team, and it's not like you can just assume that because the Lightning beat them already, they're going to do it again. Vancouver is currently 2 points clear in the same amount of games as the Tampa Bay Lightning, third in the Pacific Division behind the Kings and Golden Knights, who are both near the top of the Western Conference. The Canucks 13-7-4 with a goal differential of +1. And the Canucks have lost 3 times on the road, one in overtime, twice in regulation, one of those games against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And obviously, one of the first keys you have to look at is the power play. The Lightning have certainly stressed the importance of that throughout the season. And now this is a game where I think it really comes into play because the Lightning were in the bottom third of the NHL. I think they were 26th in the league on their power play and around the same in penalty kill percentage. They were top 5 in both over the month of November. And in the win against San Jose, the Lightning did take advantage of one of their 2 power play opportunities without allowing the Sharks to get a goal on 3 power play chances. So special teams can certainly decide the game. That was not the case in the last game between these 2 teams. The Canucks had a better record in terms of goals scored on the power play, but I think that it's just going to be a different story. The Lightning's power play has improved close to the level that we saw it with Steven Stamkos over the last couple of years. And it's something that some of the guys did talk about after the game, and just how much how much better the power play has looked and how much that has really changed the scope of the season. But, when you look at a game like this, there's not much the Lightning did wrong in this last win over the San Jose Sharks. That showed up on the scoreboard, and it was certainly a sentiment shared by Cam Atkinson, who got points on the first 2 goals of the game, including his 3rd goal as a Lightning player.
This is going to be we want to be road warriors, so Vancouver's playing really well right now, and take one day at a time, but continue to do the right things, stick to our structure, and have success.
3 players from the Lightning were available to the media after yesterday's game. It was Atkinson, Point, and Hagel. I'm pretty sure all 3 of them used the term road warriors. And it really seems like the Lightning are already just getting into that mindset before this big road trip. I mean, if you look at this, legitimately, I could see the Oilers back in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Canucks are a team that is doing really well this point in the season. The Flames are in playoff position, actually tied with just 2 more losses in 2 more games played than the Vancouver Canucks, and Edmonton is right by there as well. So they're facing 3 really tough teams in a row. I'd definitely be a little bit more surprised if I saw Calgary or Vancouver in the Stanley Cup Finals, and certainly the Kraken, who are no slouch themselves, even at 6th place in that Pacific Division. But, I mean, these are 4 difficult teams that the Lightning are playing on the road. And the Lightning have done much better at home than they have on the road over the course of this season. Tampa Bay has been one of the better home teams in the league at 8-4-1. On the road, they are barely 500 at 5-5-1 with 1 overtime loss. But, you know, this is just another tone-setting game. I think the Lightning certainly did a good job ending their home standoff on the right note. 5 of their last 6 games have been at home. And now they've got to get a similar, except probably more dominant run on the road. I mean, this game on Sunday could set the tone for the entire trip. And I think that the win against the Shark, dominant, great. You want to celebrate that. And the Lightning are doing that by getting a day off from practice on Friday. They were supposed to have practice, but after a 7-goal win, I think the guys deserve some rest. And Lightning certainly earned that. But yeah, I think that sets the tone for this Sunday game. But the Canucks are a big challenge. They could be a dark horse when it comes to the playoffs. They're a deep team, and they've played some solid hockey over the course of this season, and it has them in a difficult division in a contending position through the first 2 months. And that's exactly where you want to be. It's where the Lightning are right now. And these are going to be tough tests. So Lightning being able to pick up a couple wins on this road trip could do really well for them in this season. And I think obviously there's a chance they sweep the whole thing. If I had to pick one game where I think they're going to lose, I think maybe the Oilers. But I think I think all 4 of these can be winnable games. The Lightning have already beat some of the better teams in the NHL over the course of the season. And I wouldn't be surprised that they would get a little extra juice going up against the defending Western Conference champions in their house. So they're going to be tough games, but I think the Lightning can certainly start off with a Sunday victory. I don't think it's going to be a 4-1 game. I'm thinking it's going to be a bit closer. I think the Lightning will take a late third period go-ahead goal and win it 3-2. Hopefully Nikita Kucherov will play. Obviously, my prediction is going to change quite a lot for not just Sunday's game, but for the rest of the series, depending on Kucherov's availability. But he did still practice yesterday. He wasn't participating in the optional morning skate. It seemed like he had suffered a setback because when John Cooper was asked about Kuch's availability for last night's game, he said that there was no good news on Kucherov. So hopefully that's not a grim diagnosis. Just from what I saw on Wednesday, it looks like he could be pushed to readiness by Sunday. Maybe he takes one more game off and comes back against Edmonton, but I honestly would be a little bit surprised if he doesn't make his debut on the road trip at or before the Edmonton game. Kucherov's a tough guy. He knows that he's a guy that the Lightning count on. So I'm sure he's itching to get back on the ice. I know that the Bolts are itching to have him back on the ice. And that's just certainly something that we have to hope for. If Kucherov can't make it on Sunday, we're going to need another big game from Hagel, from Gensel, from Point, from Cirelli. I mean, these are all guys that have stepped up with some guys getting injured, with the depth being impacted a little bit. And now the injury bug has bitten the Lightning star player. one of the best offensive players, I think, to ever suit up for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But Tampa was still able to get this win out of without him out there. And regardless of the fact that the Lightning comeback didn't start until late in the third period against the Maple Leafs at the end of November, they were in that game too. They had a chance in winning that game without Kucherov. So the Lightning have played, I think, way better than I've expected with Kucherov out. But going on this road trip is going to be an even bigger test for Tampa Bay. And they're going to need a tone-setting win against Vancouver to start it off on the right foot. And we'll leave you with that until Sunday's game. We'll have a reaction for you on Monday's episode. But I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Please give us a like, a follow, a subscribe on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts. And for your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And once again, please remember to give Locked On Fantasy Hockey a like, subscribe, and a follow once you do that with Locked On Lightning as well. Josh Sperber here on Locked On Lightning, signing off for the weekend. Wishing all of you a great couple of days, and we'll talk on Monday. Go Bolts, and have a great weekend, everybody.